Good morning, everyone. I hope you've had a good week. My name is Jake with Jake Trades and Invests, where I do a weekly video series of where the markets have moved, as well as where I think the prices will be headed in the short to medium term. And with all of that said, we'll go ahead and jump into our first charts here. As always, we'll start here with the dollar index. This week we have started to bounce in our support zone that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. We came down and touched the bottom support line here in this zone a couple of weeks ago, and now we're working our way slowly higher. Again, I think for the dollar, it was likely that we were going to get a bounce given how oversold we were, and I think the prices were going to head back towards the moving averages, and then I believe it's likely that we will fall back into the support zone again, maybe for a double bottom bounce. That's how it's played out in the past. If we go to a weekly chart, you can see here we kind of bounced out of the zone, back down before heading higher. And again, a few years back, we bounced into that zone, came back out, came back and did a retest, and then headed higher again. I'm not saying long term that we're going to head higher, but it's likely that we're going to get the bounce out of this zone and come back down and retest it to see if we're going to get a double bounce. It's likely that we're going to fall through and continue to see dollar weakness, but it's that's my main theory at the moment. But it's likely that we could also get the bounce, come back, retest it, and bounce higher again. But for now, it's playing out as I've been talking about, where it's heading back towards the moving averages. And again, in the next couple of weeks, I would expect a little bit higher prices, and then for a retest of this zone, maybe in another 2 or 3 weeks. So with that, we'll move to gold. Gold is still continuing to consolidate sideways right now. We're bouncing around the 50 moving average, and it looks like there's buying coming in on these pullbacks, which is a good sign for gold to continue its way up. Like I've said, if the dollar ends up getting weaker, it's likely that gold will continue to push to the upside. And even in the short to medium and long term, I'm very bullish on gold. I think we've been in this uptrend now ever since breaking above the 2000 level here that was resistance for a couple of years. We've just been pushing higher pretty strongly. So right now we're just consolidating sideways. I think this momentum is gonna have to die out a little bit, so that's where the consolidation is coming from. But ultimately, I think once this consolidation is over, we're going to continue to push higher. So gold looks good. If prices come back down towards 3,200, that could be a really good buying opportunity, as I wouldn't expect prices to fall much below that. So if price happens to pull back on dollar strength, I think it would be another time to add to positions or buy into gold if you haven't already. Silver, we were consolidating sideways and ended the week on Thursday and Friday with some really strong candles, pushing up to just over $39. So we're well on our way to this $50 zone. There's not much resistance overhead right now. So it looks like silver is going to just continue to work its way up towards 50. Now, this is not going to be an overnight straight to $50 move. We're going to have consolidations like this. We're going to have pullbacks. So it's not going to move in a straight line, but overall the momentum is to the upside, just like in gold. And I think in the medium to long term, silver is a really good opportunity for investment. And I think we're going to surpass the $50 mark this time around. Platinum, similar to silver, we were consolidating sideways for a couple of weeks, and we ended this week with some strong pushes higher, hitting 1477. Now, if we look out on go to the weekly chart. If we go out on a weekly chart, we've just broken through some resistance that acted as resistance and support over the last couple of decades. So we've finally broken above that. It's likely that we're going to have a pullback given how far this has come in the last few months. We really haven't consolidated or pulled back very much. And you can see on a weekly chart these selling candles getting up here over the last month or so. So it's likely that we could see a pullback and prices are going to sit maybe between this 1350, 1400 range for a while. Doesn't have to be the case, but given that we just broke this resistance here, we did kind of consolidate above it for a while the last couple of weeks, but it's possible that we'll continue to consolidate here and maybe even some pullbacks to that area. Copper, kind of the same thing. We started the week really strong with this huge candle here, pushing all the way up to almost $5.90, and then we had some selling and then a little bit of consolidation the remainder of the week. So the momentum is back behind copper. I was talking about it a couple of weeks ago, how this area here looked like a really good chance to buy in, and that has played out really nicely. I did get into some copper stocks back in that area. Let's look at a weekly chart here. So we haven't quite pushed up to this upper range, and I don't know that this is going to be the extent of the move. It's just where it's lined up currently in this kind of channel funnel pattern, if you want to call it that. It's not a very clean one, but that's where resistance has been in the past. So likely we'll get up to 650, 675 here in the short to medium term with all this momentum behind us, but also given how strong of a push we've had this week, some consolidation is likely to occur in the coming weeks before continuing our move higher. For crude oil, it looks like we're ready to go again. A couple of weeks ago, we had broken out pretty strongly and then immediately got knocked back down. And now it looks like we've got a little bit of momentum building again. We've got some pretty strong green candles here over the last 2 weeks, sitting just above the moving averages and sitting around that $66 to $68 support zone. So it looks like we're ready to give it another try in the push higher. So we, a couple of years back, had broken out, hit some highs around 120, and then we've been kind of consolidating and squeezing sideways ever since. And I believe this little area here to be a false breakdown where we looked like we were going to go lower and then pushed right back up a couple of weeks ago. And now it looks like we're building a little bit of momentum here. So I would look for the next couple of weeks to push higher, but I think the government's probably going to try to keep prices low because they don't want oil to go higher. But we'll have to wait and see what the price does once it starts creeping back up this way. But in my mind, it looks like oil's ready to head higher. All right, in natural gas, we have continued to kind of pull back and consolidate. I was talking about it the last couple of weeks that if we got back down in this $3 zone, it could be a good chance for another buy. We haven't quite hit that $3 mark yet, but we are just slowly kind of trickling down towards it. So anywhere in this area might be a good time to buy in preparation for the fall and winter months where natural gas is in more demand. So it's likely that prices will stay in this range and then start to head higher in the coming weeks to months, in my opinion. But right now, $3 to $3.20 in my mind is a good chance to buy. Now we'll switch over to the indices. We'll start here with the S&P 500. We hit all new all-time highs on Thursday at 62.90, and we're just kind of consolidating sideways here. So our bullish move is continuing to the upside. As I say in every video, there's always a chance that news comes out and we start to pull back. We've got all these gaps below us that likely will get filled at some point in the future, but as of right now, the bullish momentum looks like it's going to continue and just keep working its way up. So S&P 500 looks good. I want to look at the equal weighted index just to make sure that this is an overall market bullishness, not just the Magnificent Seven pulling us higher as it has in the past. So based on the equal weighted index, where all of the S&P 500 stocks contribute to the same amount in the index. That's also bullish. It's broken out of its little triangle pattern here, and now it's just consolidating sideways again. So it looks like the overall market is bullish at the moment. So that's a good sign. Now we'll move over to the Nasdaq. Looks like we hit all-time highs on Wednesday at 22,915. And like the S&P, we're just kind of consolidating sideways right now, maybe to let a little bit of this momentum die down before continuing higher. But like the S&P, I think the Nasdaq also looks good to continue its move to the upside as time goes on. For the Dow, we haven't quite reached our all-time highs yet. We're very close, maybe into this week or next week. We'll get there, but we're just below them and we're consolidating here. So it doesn't look like too much selling pressures is hitting right now at 45,000. I'm going to put a box in as that's the area of resistance that we're currently looking at. So we've got some resistance here in that general area where we topped a couple of, or at the end of 2024, and then we came back up to try and get past it before falling and selling off earlier this year. So yeah, it looks like we're just consolidating below, which is a good sign. Maybe it needs time for these moving averages to catch up, so maybe another week or two of consolidation before pushing higher. But I think if the other indices are going to head higher, the Dow is going to follow. And then for the Russell, we are sitting just below our 2300 level here, which has been resistance in the past. Kind of similar to the Dow, we tested it back at the beginning of the year before falling off. So we've worked our way up higher. So again, like the Dow, I think some consolidation is ahead of us before we try to retest this $2,300 level overhead. And then for Bitcoin, we've continued to push higher this week. I talked about it last week, how we were starting to break out of this little flag pattern and we were just kind of sitting on top of it. This week we've pushed on up with some momentum and a little bit of a gap to new all-time highs at 119,000. So all things are looking good for Bitcoin to continue to the upside as long as the dollar weakness continues. And with all of that, that's what I have for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please hit the like button. I'd also appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out in getting these videos more views. If you haven't already, please check out last week's video and see how the analysis held up. And as always, I will see you again next week with another update. Thanks. Have a good week.